Yeah, boy, it is May 13th, and it's episode 74, and this is the Fantasy Football Auctioneer. I'm your host, Uncle Buckets. The Fantasy Football Auctioneer is the official podcast of the fantasyfootballauction.com, the internet's only website dedicated to fantasy football auctions. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/fantasyfootballauctioneer, or follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We are at Fantasy Auction. We've got a great show for you tonight. The NFL draft is over. The Cowboys passed on Manziel, Dave, but the Browns didn't. Sammy Watkins is in Buffalo. Tonight we're going to break it all down for you, and we'll do it. And we'll do it in style tonight with our buddy, the Road Warrior Dave Cherney. He's here tonight. But before we get to him, let's remember our experts. They're always here. He may just be frothing at the lips, at the mouth because of Stevie Johnson trade. Slim, how you doing tonight?
I am excited about that trade, and I'm doing pretty good. Thank you very much for asking.
Well, thank you for the very precise response. Yes, it's good.
You're
and
welcome.
moving on, he's on pins and needles as his Boston Bruins enter Game 7. Blister, how's the old ticker?
It is getting a workout this week, I tell you. I'm not looking forward to tomorrow night's game. Still debating whether I watch it or just check my phone for updates. It's too hard on the heart.
And your heart, well, we need to make sure we take good care of it. So.
Well, you know, sometimes I wish I was like a lot of other fans out there whose teams never make the playoffs, and I wouldn't have to go through this. It'd be so much healthier.
So, yeah, it's a bad problem to have, right? Your team makes the playoffs.
Yeah, that's tough.
But that was a poke rated Slim, I'm pretty sure.
No. I keep forgetting Slim's a Leaf fan. No.
All right, well, I was going to say, I was going right to it. Jeez. I was going to say, segueing into a guy whose team isn't making the playoffs, and we hope he doesn't make his biggest gaffe on the air tonight. Dave Cherney, how the hell are you?
Well, actually, I'm 0 for 2 on this particular. Not only did my Washington Capitals not make the playoffs, but my gaffe that I had the other night on a professional podcast.
Oh.
Hit the cutting room floor. It hit the cutting room floor, so there's still a chance for me tonight to actually have one on air.
Cutting room
Right
floor,
on.
that doesn't exist around here. That's my bathroom floor, and anyways, we'll leave that alone. But Dave, I did notice that you retweeted Sidney Crosby with pacifier, I believe, tonight.
That would be correct. And being a Capitals fan, we're not big fans of the Flyers and less of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And that's because I live in New York, so I'm going to have to deal with the Rangers at least until they face the Canadians in the next series. So we're just going to have to see how that goes.
Well, and around here, I know some of the mill workers are anti-Montreal Canadiens now because they're disliking anything out of Quebec, I heard. So I don't know.
That's right. That's a good point.
Local mill worker gave me that good bit of advice this week. So anyways, we'll get into, well, I don't know if we're going to get into that, but we'll get into a lot of other stuff. So if you guys are ready, then I'm ready. Let's cock the hammer. It's time for action. So like I said before, we got a great show for you tonight. Dave Cherney's here. We're going to talk the 2014 NFL rookie class and take a look at where we think guys slot in, maybe some sleeper talk. Dave's done he's done a real rookie draft already, so we've got a lot of good information for you. But before we get into that, let's answer a couple of Twitter questions. Some of them kind of came in here just before we got on the air. So, I don't know, let's throw it to you, Slim, for the first one. At Little Toots, our friend from New Zealand asks, has Jordan Reed sorry, let me backtrack that. Cutting room floor, Dave, there it is. Has Jordan Reed as a potential keeper, and he's wondering if the concussion problems at the end of the last season should be troubling, or is Washington just taking precautions? Slim, what do you think about Jordan Reed?
I like him. I don't have my tight end rankings pulled up. That was very bad timing.
That's all right. I'll do it. Keep talking about Jordan Reed. I'll pull it up.
I was going to say, I figured you'd bail me out. But I don't think the concussion things are anything to be that concerned about. I mean, we've seen lots of guys still play pretty well and for lengthy amounts of time with early concussion problems. And I think it was good that he missed the end of last year. It gives him a chance to really recover, and he had the whole off season. I expect big things from him all this season, and I mean, I'm not worried about any concussions. If he gets a concussion sometime this year, then yeah, maybe it's something to worry about for the rest of the season. But until that happens, I'm starting him with confidence.
All right, Slim, you have Jordan Reed right now ranked at 7. Blister has him at 8. I have him at 7, so the consensus rank is 7.3 right now. That's as of the end of April, so it's pre-draft stuff. We're still working on post-draft stuff. Let's move on to the next Twitter question. A new big fan of ours, Blister, at Mike Canfield Fort F. He asks, and he's a Vikings fan, any love for Greg Jennings or Patterson this year, or are they too risky? That's the first part of the question.
Well, I personally don't have any love for Jennings. Patterson might be a little bit nicer play, maybe a better pickup in a dynasty format. Otherwise, I think he's probably going to be your 4th or potentially 5th receiver. I mean, I just think the offense there is a little scary. Adrian Peterson is still going to get the ball this year, and I think we're going to lead into that there. Sorry about that. But
right.
I think the quarterback situation, I don't see I don't know how long it'll take for Teddy Bridgewater to take over the reins there. We know that they've had some troubles there with quarterbacks, so that's the big question mark in Minnesota is how that's all going to play out. Now, I think also you got to remember too, and you don't know how this is going to affect it right now either, but anybody from the Minnesota team this year is going to be playing outdoors, and we know what the winter was like this past winter. This next
I know what the spring's like.
The spring is still worse than most people's winter, so that could affect fantasy value for a lot of guys. Second part of the season, every time they play, they're going to be playing in the Gopher Stadium, which is outdoors, and that's a little scary too. So I don't really have a lot of love for Jennings. Patterson, yeah, I would take him. I wouldn't expect him to, hopefully some weeks he could contribute as maybe my wide receiver 3, but I would, this year I'd be okay with letting other people take both those players. And then the second part of your question.
What I was going to say is I know in our draft, because of all the Vikings fans, Patterson will go for inflated value anyways. So
that's good.
Steering clear. Anyway, second part of the question is AP still the number 1 running back, he asks.
Yes, but, and it's a big but here, I think 29 years old now for AP, and I think this could be his last year in Minnesota. There's a lot of rumblings out there anyways that could be the case. So, they really don't have a lot of guys, quality guys going to be taking carries away from him. But I really think that, a lot of running backs start to decline at 29 and 30, and, it's hard to imagine AP falling off the map so much that he couldn't be a contributor in fantasy, but the rumor mill has it that AP might get dealt before next season. So one more year maybe in the purple.
All right, and then third question will go to you, Slim. So at Forgotten Hand 13 asks, Bishop Sankey has a pretty easy road to being the cowbell to having cowbell status. Do you think he can put up those type of numbers?
I think he can. I mean, right now I don't have him ranked as an RB1, and to me bell cow doesn't necessarily mean RB1, but I think he's right now. You could draft him as kind of a middle of the pack RB2. There's not much competition for him there. He's right. It's a pretty easy road. Sean Green is nothing special, and I think I just read somewhere he had to have his knee scoped either yesterday or today or something like that after their 3rd minicamp practice. Never a good sign for a backup running back. So that could even limit his competition even more. Plus, he's a 3-down back. He might be one of the only 3-down backs coming out of this draft. So he could see the field a lot. And we'll get into him a little bit more, and Dave will probably touch on him here in this next segment right out of the gates here. But so we'll save a little bit of that there, Forgotten Hand, and you can listen in 2 minutes. We'll probably get into Sankey in a little more detail here.
All right. So transitioning into Dave. Dave, why don't you just talk to our fans, even though they should be more than aware of who you are because you've been on the show a few times now. Talk to the fans a little bit about where you are these days if they haven't followed in the soap opera, and what you're busy doing these days.
Well, ironically enough, people may have seen a change on my little logo down there, and the irony part of it is the night after the last time you had me on here, my former site had closed the doors. We had closed the doors the next day, unbeknownst to myself. So I just want to. I am currently now with Fake Pigskin. If you're watching this now, you may want to make preparations because I don't have a real good track record after being on this. That said, over at Fake Pigskin, just a very total versatile site. They're not only do they do all types of fantasy football, but they're doing Major League Baseball, NBA, little NHL, and a little of this other football, I believe, from the European League called soccer. I'm not real familiar. If they really want to close, they'll have me right for that. You could pretty much catch my antics over there. I'm pretty much going to stick to the podcast, write a little bit of writing, but they're pumping out 2-3 articles a day, and they'll be coming up with a draft guide coming up pretty soon, which I'll be having a little to do with there. So with that, any dynasty questions? That'll be my my main focus over there.
Your forte. All right, good stuff. Hopefully we're not bad luck or good luck or whichever way it would go for you again tonight. So it's always good having you on the show, Dave. So thanks for taking time out. I know Slim kind of last minute gave you a ring there and see if you could come on. So thanks for coming on.
Anytime.
Sorry, go. So what I was going to say, Dave, you were telling us that you just finished a rookie draft. So as probably one of the few people out there that's wrapped one up already, why don't you tell us a little bit about the draft, some of the things you saw you liked, you didn't like, any surprises that may have occurred during that?
There were some surprises. I mean, considering, we had to pass some time, especially with the draft being extended out there. There were many mock drafts, even in the dynasty world. We just wanted to get a feel for where people were going. And it constantly it's like a practice in futility, because it's not until you actually see where players land and situations they're in, and this is going to go for redraft probably more importantly than even dynasty, because you can wait it out in dynasty, whereas in redraft, you really have to look for a situation like a Sankey, because everyone was looking to see who was going to land there in Tennessee, because that was huge. Because that's that could be the one place where a running back is going to be maybe the next Zach Stacy type of situation that we had last year. But the one thing that was tried and true in the rookie draft, and we also started this draft the minute they kicked off the real draft.
Yeah.
So as be the official first draft to go off.
That's right. Yeah, it would be.
Yes. And we've just about wrapped it up. I think we have a couple picks left. But wide receivers were gone right off the bat. And I know, Buckets, you came to me and you did like kind of a consensus of what the pre-draft order was. Right. And I looked at it, and it couldn't have been more different than the draft that I just participated in. If you don't mind, I could easily go down the first round here.
Yeah, give her.
Absolutely. Sure. Sammy Watkins at 1, which is pretty much a no-brainer. Mike Evans, number 2. Number 3, Kelvin Benjamin. I mean, that one kind of surprised me, but looking at the situation in Carolina, the guy is probably, if he learns how to catch a ball, I guess he'd be in better shape. First running back goes off the board. Bishop Sankey goes off at number 4. Jordan Matthews landing with the Eagles ended up coming in at number 5. Number 6, Carlos Hyde. Number 7, Marquise Lee. 8, Allen Robinson, landing in Jacksonville. Another one, Dante Moncrief in Indianapolis. Odell Beckham. And then Eric Ebron was the first tight end. That's not a surprise. Then Brandon Cooks actually lasted till the 12th pick of the first round. And I know a lot of people had him going a lot sooner. So maybe I throw it back to you. What are your thoughts about how those picks went?
Well, let's slide it over to Slim, our resident rookie class guy. What do you think about some of those? Anything leap out at you at Dave's first round?
Not tons. I mean, I'm maybe surprised that Cody Latimer didn't go in the first round, just because he went to the Broncos and we know what their passing offense is like. I'm not sure what to think of Hyde. I mean, I think for sure in Dynasty he has much more value. But then again, we don't know what they have in Lattimore still, so that could scare some people off. But Brandon Cooks, I think that's a decent spot for him. I'm not exactly sold. I think he's going to have to compete a lot with guys like Jimmy Graham and Kenny Stills and Colston this year for looks, and he could very well be a very dynamic weapon, but I just don't know if the volume is going to be there initially for him. And yeah, I think, Watkins is no surprise, like Dave said, and Evans at number 2 shouldn't shock anybody. And Sankey, I think he was 3rd, he said. I mean, that shouldn't really shock anybody either. Kelvin Benjamin, I'm a little surprised at that too, I guess, just because it's kind of like Dave said, it's not a great situation right now. It doesn't really show too many signs of getting better. Even next year, they still have a little bit of work to do on offense, and he's got bad hands right now. He's huge, but so he could be a good red zone target, but he can drop a lot of passes. Yeah, exactly. He's probably bigger than Olsen is there, so who knows? But yeah, I mean, a couple surprises, but like you said, Ebron going as a top tight end, that shouldn't shock anybody either. But yeah, and the wide receivers going more than running backs, I mean, that shouldn't surprise anybody either. There's so many potentially good wideouts, and running backs maybe not so much, at least not as far as RB1s would go. And you probably want to take a wideout and roll the dice on them versus some of these kind of mid-tier running backs.
All right. Hey, Blister, did you pay attention to any of that? Is there anything you want to add to Dave's first round?
No. I mean, just looking at the rankings you had up there and what Dave mentioned, I mean, I guess... it all comes down to, I guess, what kind of draft you're going into, right? If you're in a dynasty draft and you're looking at guys for long term and how many numbers you can keep versus the impacts this year. And I think every year when you're in a redraft league, a lot of guys go into that redraft really excited about these rookies, and you'll see them in an auction overspend on a rookie and not get the production for the dollar value they spent. If I look at all the rookies out there, there's a few running backs that I'd probably put at the top of my list for targets for our redraft leagues, like Bishop Sankey or Terrence West, or even maybe Hill in Cincinnati. And you know what, even going down the list where you probably don't have a White in New England. I mean, for different scenarios. But those guys, if we look over the years, those guys do have potential. If it takes one injury away, and then when they're playing, we've seen the last few years rookie running backs end up in the top 10 of fantasy scoring versus the receivers. There's always a lot of big hype, and these guys could turn out to be great, but typically not in their rookie years. So, I mean, if it's a dynasty draft, all those names you mentioned are awesome, and if you can grab a couple of them, then what happened to Dave? He fell down?
Yep.
Anyways, like you.
Anyways, no. Every situation is different. Like you said, when Dave's draft, he had some surprises, and I think every draft you do from here on forward, you're going to see some things change and outlooks change on each team from here going into the season.
Okay, well, you guys have made a couple of references to the list I have on the script. I went to a competitor site, a certain nationally known site that is featured on a all-news channel as their news source. So take that for what it's worth. But here's the top 15 that they had as far as a redraft goes. After, I guess, from this rookie class. So at 1 they had Sankey. At 2 they had Trey Mason, who went to the Rams. 3 they had Johnny Football going to Cleveland. I'm just going to pause there. Any love for Johnny Manziel, Dave, if the Cowboys would have selected?
No. I was thinking going there. Oh, no. I had a brick in my hand ready to go through my TV if they were.
Sounds a lot like Slim's brother. The anticipation of that pick coming in was. Well, I could feel his energy.
I do want to say, though, in redraft, I could see him having, even though I think long term, I could see kind of an RG3 effect where over time, he gets riskier as he goes along just because of his body type and his play style. But I think even in redraft, if I were to take a quarterback, Manziel would be my guy because I think even for a 1 year shot, I think there's some upside there.
All right, so Johnny Manziel was at 3, who went to the Browns. Sammy Watkins of the Buffalo Bills at 4. Odell Beckham to the Giants at 5. Brandon Cooks of the Saints at 6. Cody Latimer to the Broncos at 7. Mike Evans of the Bucks at 8. Eric Ebron's the tight end coming in at number 9 from the Lions. Terrence West, the running back with the Browns, who, being behind Ben Tate could be a good situation for him. Number 11, Andre Williams of the Giants. Number 12, Carlos Hyde of the 49ers. At 13 was Calvin Benjamin, who went to the Panthers. 14 was Marcus Lee, who went to the Jags. And rounding out the top 15 was the Minnesota Vikings, Teddy Bridgewater. So, Dave, I guess just going through that list, anything that jumps out at you as far as that list from the Bleacher Report, from that website?
Whoops.
I wanted to give them reference because I want to make sure it's that they don't think I'm just stealing stuff because I know they listen.
Understood. The only thing that I noticed that I would tie back is a person that I thought actually was going to have a little more value and that I was very much high on in both formats, redraft and dynasty, was Terrence West. And granted, his situation with Tate is there, which he could possibly fall into something, but also unrestricted free agent Isaiah Crowell, who's also one of the best backs coming out with a kind of an iffy background. He didn't get drafted, but the Browns picked him up as well. And so West is also going to be competing against him for carries this year, and this ought to be a very interesting training camp because if the guy can keep his nose clean and stay out of the papers, that's going to be one heck of a competition going on in Cleveland. So I can see where the Terrence West love kind of filtered off a little bit, but he may still be worth a shot in the dark considering he's the running back position in a redraft league.
All right, Slim, how about you? Anything you see there on that list that jumps out at you right away?
Well, I kind of talked about, we were talking, off the air. Mike Evans at number 8 to me. I just think as far as, I think he went to a good situation with Tampa Bay. We talked about this last week that it would be kind of cool to see him and Vincent Jackson lined up across from each other. We got two huge kind of wideouts. I think he can be a really good red zone threat for them. And I think this year he could end up being maybe the top scoring fantasy wide receiver. So, to me, having him at number 8 is a little bit of a surprise, especially, with somebody like Brandon Cooks or Odell Beckham above him. I just think, and even having Trey Mason at number 2, I was really hoping Trey Mason would end up getting drafted by Tennessee. Going to St. Louis, it's going to be tough for him to get considerable carries. I think Zach Stacy's in line for a big year for many reasons. So I just think it's tough for Trey Mason. He's to me a great running back, but it's just going to be hard for him to see the field consistently unless Zach Stacy gets hurt or for some reason isn't productive to start the season, which I don't think is going to happen behind this humongous offensive line. And it's going to be kind of a waste to have him there. It might be tough for him to get on the field. But yeah, I don't know. Other than that, it's not terrible. I think the bottom guys, you could put take guys off and put guys in. It doesn't really matter. And, we don't know what we're going to get necessarily yet.
All right. Hey, Blister, how about you going through that top 15? Anything jump out at you right away as loves or hates?
Oh, not too much. I like Cody Latimer, but in Denver, I just think there's so many targets to go around in Denver. I kind of think it's a little high for him to be ranked that high up, in my personal opinion. There's still Wes Walker there, Sanders is there, Thomas is there, the other Thomas is there. Even if everybody is healthy, he's going to compete for looks. So I don't see him in a redraft anyways having as much value as some of these other guys like maybe Brandon Cooks. I see him having less competition. Odell Beckham, even Sammy Watkins, these guys are going to have more opportunity. Calvin Benjamin potentially. So I see a lot of these guys, even Marquise Lee below him, potentially could have more targets this year than he would. So there's a chance that they could do more with them. Eric Ebron and the Lions. The good thing I guess about that is that Detroit, they like to throw the ball around, but and Pettigrew is, what is he? Disappointing or
garbage?
I guess you could say, to be polite. Yeah. And Ferrari had like 7 or 8 touchdowns last year, but he had very few targets. And I know the plan was to get him involved more, but Eric Ebron has probably the talent. But we never really see a tight end in his rookie year come in and break top 15 status or anything like that. So I don't know. I'm just hesitant in any of these top tight ends that they could do that. Some of them are in a great situation. You look at, again, Slim mentioned Mike Evans in Tampa. You have Austin Safarian-Jenkins there, also another big target for them to throw around. So they have a few nice targets in that offense now. And if McCown can continue to throw the ball like he was in Chicago, then they could put up some nice numbers there. Andre Williams is a nice looking back. I mean, we talked about him, kind of had him targeted as a sleeper, but I don't think he catches the ball at all. I don't think he had one catch last year, so
zero
that could
reception
be a factor. But there's another situation where zero, yeah, that's not a lot. So going forward, you don't know what's going to happen with David Wilson. I really don't have a lot of faith though, and faith in Jennings. Like when he was in Jacksonville, he was supposed to take over for MJD when he went down. He did nothing, and he had a slightly decent year last year in Oakland, but I really don't see him. Like, I know a lot of people are rushing out in drafts that have been already to pick up Rashad Jennings or Toby Gerhart. I'm not in love with either of those running backs at this point. I mean, especially if they had to be my number one. I don't have a lot of confidence in them. So grabbing Andre Williams, he might be a nice pickup, and he might do more than expected there. So that's my take on that list. What you got there?
All right. So Dave, let's head back to you. You just finished your rookie draft, as you said. What were you looking at? Like, the top few guys here, are pretty standard, and like we're saying, you could flip-flop a few of them, but we know that those are going to be big targets. But as you got into some of the later picks in that rookie draft, who are some of the guys that you were targeting? This is Dynasty, right? So, looking at them long-term.
Some that I was targeting, well, let's see. I'm just trying to quickly go down. Well, like I said, I mentioned Terrence West was somebody that was high on my board, but after his landing spot, I gave it. He went a little higher. He ended up going at pick. Well, and actually, I shouldn't say that. It actually dropped down to the fourth round, and I still wasn't willing to take him.
Oh, yeah.
I had more that I'm going to say that I wasn't targeting. That actually I was a little surprised. That not really shocked, but their situation, like Lake Seastrunk, landing in Washington. And you want to talk about another person that can't catch the ball, and then now he's there with Alfred Morris. And so someone said what they were going to do is they're going to split them both. They were both going to put them on the same side of the field. Maybe if they ran into each other, they could wedge the ball between them for a catch and get a half-point PPR for it.
Yeah.
That's how bad the catching situation is down there. I'm looking at guys like Troy Nicholas. Well, he seems to be a pretty good fit in Arizona, but he's going to be doing nothing. Probably, he's more of an all-around. Safarian-Jenkins is a great, looking tight end down there in Tampa. He should. People have him between 1 and 3 coming in there. Kadeem Carey actually ended up going late second round. So it depends on where you think he's going to fit. And eventually, I don't see him. He's probably not going to do much in the Chicago Bears offense this year. And Trey Mason here went at the beginning. I'm not sure if I mentioned this at the beginning of the third round, which was a little bit of a surprise. But again, you're looking at situations here. So. There was no standard when I saw this. I mean, it was, as much as you mentioned the redraft, that was just as crazy as the Dynasty startup was. It was just all over the place. Nothing, you could predict nothing.
Predict nothing. Well, that's a positive for Blister and I as we move into our first ever rookie startup draft here. Predict nothing. You got that right, Blister? Took that note?
Yeah, I don't know, if we need to worry about trading up higher up where we are. I mean, we're going to get a quality guy at both those picks if we want one.
I hear that.
Who knows who it'll be? It depends who people value before.
Well, let's slide into that just a little bit here, because I think that's a interesting question, and hopefully the ECL guys don't listen to this for a few weeks and don't know some of the advice we get. I was gonna ask Slim kind of the same thing, just looking on as far as the rookie class go. Is there anyone that's sitting back in the depths that you would be taking a look at or taking a flyer on that landed in a pretty good situation?
Sorry, how deep are we going here?
Well, I don't know, as deep as you want to go. I mean, outside of this 15, if you want to go further.
In Dynasty, I mean, somebody like Devontae Adams, I think, really, I love, getting drafted by Green Bay. He might not do much this year, but I think next year they've got some decisions to make at wide receiver. I think Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb, both their contracts are coming up right away. They probably aren't going to keep both, and who knows? Maybe they're not going to be able to keep both, and maybe they don't keep any of them, and all of a sudden it's Boykin and Devontae Adams and somebody else that they end up drafting. If you want to go really deep, maybe somebody like Brandon Coleman. He was drafted. He was an undrafted free agent. He was signed by New Orleans. All the focus was on Brandon Cooks getting picked in day one, but I mean, I remember seeing mock drafts where Brandon Coleman was a third-round pick, and for some reason it didn't happen. He's huge. He's 6'6", played basketball, so he's got some decent physicality. He's got to learn to run routes, obviously, coming from a basketball background. But I mean, if you're looking for long-term value, he could be a guy that might be able to, fill in for Marcus Colston whenever he decides to leave. And another guy that I'm kind of intrigued. I want to see training camp here, how this goes. David Fluellen. He was drafted, undrafted free agent.
Oh, sorry, wrong flu. Sorry.
Yeah. Fluellen.
Oh, sorry.
That's kind of deep.
But he was. What's that?
No, so that's pretty deep there. That's pretty good.
Deep.
I like that call. Yeah. Fluellen.
Well, I just think he's this. I don't think he's very flashy. I haven't seen much on him, but just reading, and he went to Philly. I mean, we know they like to run the ball, and once they traded or got rid of Bryce Brown, I thought, okay, they'll maybe try and draft a running back somewhere, and they never really did in the draft, and they took this guy, after the draft was over. He's a big back. He runs between the tackles, which isn't necessarily, a strength as far as Chip Kelly's offense, but just for the fact of how much they like to run the ball in that offense. If we're talking, say, short yardage situations, maybe some goal line stuff, maybe just even to spell LaShawn McCoy on obvious running situations, a guy like that could have some value, and who knows, long term, he could become the clear number 2 in Philly someday. So if you're talking really, really deep, there's maybe a guy you want to take with your 50th pick or something in your dynasty draft or something, your dynasty startup this year.
All right, Blister, jotting notes, right?
Yep. Got her.
Yeah.
I'm sure Dave has a couple really good guys here too. So.
Well, is there anyone else, Dave, that's kind of on your list? You've heard how deep Slim likes to go. No pun intended.
Slim's really well. Either he's starting to think like me, which he should be really afraid of. Because I'm going to tell you, I actually traded back in my first round because at the point I had where I was at, I really wasn't liking the value of many of the players. I was picking a little late, so I was able to trade back in and get a next year's first. And I got up early in the second, and I went with his thinking on Devontae Adams in Green Bay, thinking I didn't need him.
Like Trent Baalke, man.
What's that?
Yeah. Sound like Trent Baalke trading around and no value. I got to move back. Pick up picks. Awesome.
But the point I wanted to make is sometimes as you get in, especially and you'll experience it when you're in this particular rookie draft, because this is my 6th year in one, and I've never seen anything just as I couldn't have come close to predicting where I thought people were going to go. And so when it came down to a choice I had to make, I would inevitably, and I rarely did this before, I would actually look to see where the team actually drafted the individual, to see whether they would, the actual team. And it spoke to me where Green Bay took Adams, that they must have had some plans for him. I want to say he went in the second round for them. So that's pretty high, especially for a wide receiver. And then I'd look at other players that I thought would go earlier, let's say like a C-Strong, and he went like to the 5th round, so more expendable. So when it came down to me having some decisions, I would actually fall back on that and as kind of a tiebreaker. So we'll see how that works out, but it was that confusing this year. But good call there, Slim.
Well, that's a great point too, with what you said about where teams pick players. And I was listening to a podcast. It was a Niners one just after the first round, and they were talking about certain things, and they brought this up. Teams don't typically waste picks in the 1st to 3rd rounds on guys that, like you said, they deem expendable. If you're picking a guy in the 3rd round, or 2nd and 1st round for sure as well, but even the 3rd round, you have plans for this guy. I mean, he's not a throwaway pick. You're going to intend to use him. He's not just going to be a special teamer. At least you're hoping he's not. So he should get looks, with the offense at some point, or he's in their short-term plan somewhere. So yeah, if you ever find yourself, I guess that's a good point in a dynasty, and you're tossed, debating between a couple players. Maybe you want to lean towards the guy that was picked a little bit higher because you know that he has a better chance, maybe, being used more and receiving more snaps, which hopefully, buys him some more playing time in the future. So I like that. That's actually a really good point. I never really considered that in Dynasty that much, but it makes a lot of sense.
So, Dave, where were you originally slotted to pick in this rookie startup, and where did you trade down to, and what did you get for it, out of curiosity?
Oh, I was at the 1-7, and before that, I was going to go wide receiver to start off. I was going to hold off one, so I read off the most of the wide receivers. So I was able to trade out of that for the. I'm just trying to take a quick peek here for the 2-3, and I got a 2015 first-round pick.
Oh, okay.
From a player that has barely made it out of the basement, so that holds true that it should be a pretty nice one. So
okay.
Devontae Adams. I ended up getting Devontae Adams, and he ended up getting Jordan Matthews. So he may have gotten the front end of it, depending on how Matthews fits in with Chip Kelly's offense, but I don't think I did so bad for the long haul.
Yeah, okay.
No.
Hey, Dave, just going deep into the depths here, anyone that didn't get drafted that might get signed somewhere that you're keeping an eye on, that might be getting some touches or targets in that regards? There's always that guy who's undrafted that sneaks in there somewhere. I
have one that I've been coveting, and this is a real dicey one. I ended up getting him with my last pick in mid-5th round, and that's Colt Lyerla. I mean, I had been tracking. He's had a track record of problems coming out of Oregon. He left school. But I mean, you want to talk about a prototypical? I think they call him now an F-type. Just a tight end. I mean, he's just pass catching galore. They're calling him possibly the next Vernon Davis if he can ever get his head tied on straight. So I have had him targeted. He's still not with the team yet. He did go out. He did well at the combine. He was invited there. I don't know whether he's being taught a lesson here by not being even brought in under unrestricted free agency. But I have a hard time. I like taking flyers late in the draft like that instead of players that I know they're never going to make it. I mean, granted, if he doesn't hook on with the team, then you know what? I just wasted a 5th round spot, but I can cut that spot and I can make that available for someone else to bring in there instead of waiting for someone to possibly get around. So Lyerla is someone I've had on my target. He fits the upside that I'm looking for, but it comes with the risk.
And again, your love of the tight end position as well. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Hey, Blister, this is a great opportunity for us who, maybe this week starting our rookie draft. Anything that you, let's pick Dave's brain here. What else you got for him?
Well, I don't know, Dave. We have the 11th round of our draft, but it's the first round we can draft rookies. And right now we're sitting with the 10th pick in the 11th round, obviously a 12-man league. And then again in the 12th round, we have the 10th pick. So we've had flip-flopped some picks and moved around a bit, but we're debating, there's a guy right now offering up his 5th pick in the 11th round, and I really don't know, I honestly, everyone, they really value those picks, so I think they want us to sell the farm for those, higher picks in the 11th round, but I'm not so sure that we need to. I mean, at the 10th pick, we're still going to get a quality rookie, probably same in the 12th round if we want to go that route. So at what point, I guess every draft's different, it's probably hard to answer this, but at what point, what would you give up, first of all, to move up, say, the top 5 in the 11th round? What would that be worth in your mind? And at what point, I guess, you probably can't answer this one well, but I was going to say, do you start looking again at some of the veteran talent that's out there and not get so hung up on the rookies? Is it starting in the 12th, 13th?
Yeah, because for us,
Any comments for our listeners?
It's not just a rookie draft. It's just the 11th round. It's just that this is the first time the rookies are available.
Interesting concept, actually. I'll probably pass that concept along. I've been kind of following the way you guys have been doing it. It's actually been pretty unique and been just an interesting all-around concept of how you've done this. Well, to answer the first question, since I traded back in mine, I think I've answered your first question, so I wouldn't trade up.
Right.
I'm just saying that now because just in this particular draft, while you hear the term, yes, it is deep, and I'm going to add and as confusing as any that I've seen. And every pick comes with, and even if you play IDP, you can even look on the defensive side of the ball. And there is so many question marks on every player that I'm leery about moving up, because this probably is, as you get closer, what it's going to cost you is going to be more. And I believe you mentioned that it's going to probably cost you the farm to move up. So unless you are hell bent on one particular player, I'd stay put. And even if I wasn't satisfied when that pick came up, I'll throw it out there. You still didn't like who was out there, wait till I don't know what your timer may be like, but throw it out there and see if you want to move back, because it is awfully deep. And as far as I'm concerned, whenever I do startups, I will favor a veteran over a rookie more times than not, because you have to remember, you're going to have rookie drafts going forward every year, every year going forward. So you're going to have to make cuts and bring on new rookies. What a perfect place to maybe phase out some of these veterans that you're picking up now and bringing on rookies, because you're going to have tough decisions to make going forward. So people tend to forget that when they're in startups, that if you draft off rookies now, and then you have, 5 or 6 more rookies coming in next year, one of them is going to get cut. And you may not be winning with all rookies now. So just a different thought process going on there.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I'm leery of rookies, and we can only hold on to 8 guys in total anyways. And, unless some of the guys we drafted already get bad injuries and can't play. But I can't see us cutting Eddie Lacy or Gio Bernard, next year, and some of the other names that we have already. Antonio Brown should be pretty safe as long as he stays healthy. So, yeah, I mean, right there, you got three names right there.
Right, so you only have 5 more after that you can keep. So, yeah, that's good advice, and you're right, Dave. I'm sure that especially startup guys, and if it's their, first time like us, you get kind of excited about the rookie class coming in, but it's a good reminder that you want to win this year and years to come, and that idea that you're going to have to make cuts and later on anyways, so it might make your decisions a little bit easier if you're not, if you haven't sold the farm to pick up those guys. I like it. All right. So, I mean, we went through some of the first round or first couple round guys that we like. We looked at some deep sleepers. Slim, is there anybody as far as undrafted rookies? Have you thought about anything that far off yet that you take a look at?
Well, there was the couple guys that I mentioned there before. Kid from Philly there, the running back, and So I mean, those guys aren't. They weren't drafted per se, but they were picked up as undrafted free agents already, and we'll see what happens here in training camps. And like I said, I'm kind of anxious to see, watch them in preseason and just see how they're used, and maybe they earn a spot and hopefully get a little burn in the regular season here.
All right. Well, I mean, there's going to be lots more talk about what's going on with the rookie class as we move through, the camps, OTAs, all that type of stuff, and we see where coaching staff kind of has these guys slotted in, and preseason we'll be talking about these guys for a long time. I don't know if there's anything else we need to touch on right now. Am I missing something, guys? I feel like I'm cutting it short for some reason here.
I just have a quick one. I guess you follow the Vikings, coming from kind of Viking country.
Yeah, we get to get taken a game each of the last few years. So
sadly, we get a bit of Viking coverage. Yeah.
Well, I was kind of curious about this Jerick McKinnon that they drafted, and with the. Oh yeah. I'm an ADP owner, and supposedly he's being traded every year, and of course this is going to be the year, and this McKinnon, I know that McShay had some good things to say about him, and Kuiper did as well. I mean, I had one scout said he was strong enough to play cornerback, but he has some great prototypical size, but he's only 1 year in to being a running back. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. You hadn't heard any buzz up there in your neck of the woods. I picked him up late, very late, just because I'm an ADP owner, and I figured what the heck. But I was just curious if I got any word up in your neck of the woods about the guy.
Slim, what do you got? You sound like you...
Not. Well, I was actually, when he was drafted, I was texting my brother-in-law, and he's a big Vikings fan, and he was hoping they took that Sims that Tampa Bay drafted. They wanted a change of pace back, somebody a little smaller, So I was kind of going on Twitter, and a couple of the Vikings fans that we follow that we're friends with, they were bummed out that Sims went to Tampa, who, again, that's one other guy. I think he could be a nice little maybe sleeper. But McKinnon was kind of drafted, I think, to fill that role a little bit. And you know what? I haven't heard much about what his scouting report was or anything, because I think a lot of Vikings fans were a little surprised that they took him, it sounded like. But there was other options that they thought, that maybe they would go with, and they didn't. So I haven't heard tons, actually, Dave. You probably heard just as much as, in New York or whatever that we have here. So, yeah, I really can't add too much for you there.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I like when I hear Gil Brandt and and I see the Greg Cosell's, and then of course Kuiper not so much, but when I hear them say this is someone to keep an eye on, and then with all the ADP rumors, I was just kind of curious if you may have some and these are players that I look for like at the end of drafts, people that are either possibly backing up someone that may be on the way out a year down the road, or you get. Sometimes you look for situations, and again, they drafted him. I wouldn't say super high, but I mean higher than I would have thought. So again, I was just kind of putting in perspective here. So, anyways, onward.
All right.
Well, and like you said, Dave, looking at guys, that get into situations in a couple years down the road, like you kind of mentioned Kadeem Carey. I actually don't mind the situation. I think Forte's 29. He's had injury history. I don't know. Obviously, I don't think he'll do anything this year unless Forte, gets hurt. But you could be looking at 2-3 years down the road. Forte might be, his best days might be behind him by then, and all of a sudden, somebody like Kadeem Carey could be the focal point of that rushing offense. And dynasty, maybe there's a taxi squad guy or something like that you want to keep for a few years, and it's little things like that. Even Andre Williams, I don't think he's a flashy runner, but Blister, you were talking about it. There's not tons of options for the Giants right now, and I don't personally trust Jennings. I'm kind of like you, and David Wilson's obviously coming back from a pretty nasty injury. We don't know what's going to be, what it'll be like for him, but even this year, maybe Williams is their goal line back. So hey, that carries some fantasy value. Maybe he scores 6 touchdowns just from that alone. But things to consider, right? Like Dave said, what's the situation that guys are getting drafted into, and how can you benefit from that or see something that other guys in your league aren't seeing?
Right, zigging instead of zagging, right? Blister, anything?
Favorite?
Anything? It's been the catchphrase for weeks and weeks now.
It is. I'm getting you a T-shirt with that on.
But it's the theme, right?
It's true. I know.
And then the guys that are listening to podcasts, I think, out of all these leagues, are the guys that are doing that anyways, right? They're not buying the magazines. They're not just watching Fantasy Football Today or whatever it is on ESPN. They're doing that little bit extra, right? They're looking for the insider scoops on different things. They're reading the beat writers. They're doing all that type of stuff. So they're zigging instead. Well, whatever I just tried to say. Anyways, Blister,
you blew your own catch line.
I know. I got too excited. Anyways, I apologize. I'm still trying to dry out from standing out for 10 hours in that cold rain last night. It was yesterday. It was wicked.
Yeah.
It was wicked. Anyways, Blister, anything else you want to add? This is our opportunity here. I mean, I know we can always hit Dave up on Twitter, and we'll get all of his contact info as we close out here. But Blister, anything else?
Nothing really. Thanks again, Dave, for coming on. Always appreciate that. We look forward to getting our draft going on again. Here, the big one, and probably start doing some mock drafts soon. We've had a couple people interested, at least here now, about doing some mocks. So I'm thinking, this month is flying by, but probably near the end of the month or start of June for sure. We'll start a few mocks, and we'll throw that out there on Twitter as well. And we're looking at starting up a few fan-based leagues, follower-type leagues. So we'll get that all out in due time. We got to get our draft kit put together and tidied up a bit here for the people that are already looking for it. So we got a lot of work ahead of us, and we'll be busy the next couple of weeks for sure.
Yeah, so I guess it's there some shameless self-promotion. Draft kit coming out, multimedia. We're working on embedded embedded video, links to podcasts, downloadable and editable, not edible, but editable, spreadsheets and lists with tiers and stuff like that. So we'll do all the hard work for you. All you have to do is customize them for yourself. We'll have that all available. It'll also be available in print for those of you who like to tuck it under your arm when you're wherever you are. We have that all going on. Also, too, just to mention Blister and Slim. I know you guys have seen it. Just a shout out to the latest add-on to Fantasy Sports for You. Our new friend B. Sorrell went on there, got himself signed up under our affiliate link on our website for Fantasy Sports for You. Use the promo code auction. Deposited $50. Yeah, deposited a 50 smash, got $50 put right back into his account, and now he's got $100 that he has to play with in daily fantasy. He's playing some basketball right now, I believe. Blister, has he beat you yet in basketball, or are you still?
I quit playing during the playoffs, and I'm getting. I was so hot in baseball for a while. I had the highest winning percentage on there, and now I've been ever since. It's like when you say, "Hey, you're doing really good." Well, when you're out golfing, someone says, "Hey, you're playing really well," and then your golf game takes a dive. Well,
no, I don't know that by the way, but
with my baseball. Hey, man, you got one of the highest winning percentages, and since that time, it's been probably one of the lowest. So, kind of discouraged right now. I'm trying to get ready for our redraft our football leagues that we have on Fantasy Sports for You. Trying to get ready to declare my keepers, and I'm starting to focus on football.
All right. Well, that being said, Slim, we've got our personal brand new dynasty startup with all the boys we do our big auction with coming up, and you've released the date for the big auction. That's been officially posted now too, is right?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff. So, Dave, why don't you tell our listeners once again where they can find you? Maybe drop the Road Warrior Twitter handle. Do all the stuff. Sell yourself out there.
Well, let's see. You can pretty much find me here like once a month. So
that's probably true.
Yeah.
No, actually, guys, I do appreciate you having me on. I will do anything to be on with you guys. Keep me posted of your draft coming up. If you want some bad advice, you can find my Twitter handle, RoadWarrior_D. I'm not going to post it after another site because every time I do that, I end up having to change it. So again,
right.
RoadWarrior_D. You can find my antics over at fakepigskin.com. And you probably see me around. I jump around. I do a little bit of work with a lot of different sites. So it's tough to get rid of me. I'm like a disease.
That's good. Like a disease. I like it. All right, boys. I was going to ask the weekly question, but I'll just let it slide.
Good.
Good. I'm not traveling to K-Town tomorrow, so that's a good thing. So, Blister, I'll see you in the halls. Slim, I don't know where I'll see you, but get some draft kit work done, would you? Dave, we'll see you on Twitter. And for the rest of you, we'll see you when it's springtime in the Rockies.